This is my slideshow on cellular respiration in a carbon cycle. I had to redo this entire video because I added some new slides to it. First, I talk about photosynthesis. This is because it is a very big part of the carbon cycle needs to be mentioned. What it is when carbon dioxide, sunlight, and water are all put into the chloroplast, and it makes glucose and oxygen. I put these two images in at the bottom because they are two different plants that perform photosynthesis. Well, all plants perform photosynthesis. These are just two examples. Cellular respiration is my next slide. What cellular respiration is a process done by all organisms, plants, and animals. There are two different ways to perform it, through either aerobic or anaerobic. Aerobic respiration requires oxygen, and anaerobic requires no oxygen. However, both of them require glucose. Then, through a reaction, it makes ATP energy and as a byproduct, carbon dioxide and water. This carbon dioxide is then pushed up and out of the stomata, which releases it back into the atmosphere. How do animals give off carbon dioxide? Animals eat different plants that contain different carbon compounds such as proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. These nutrients are then broken down into glucose, and then through the process of cellular respiration, it transfers it into ATP energy and as a byproduct, carbon dioxide. This carbon dioxide is then released to the atmosphere, and this is done by when the animal breathes in oxygen, because while it is doing this, it is also breathing out carbon dioxide. Oh, sorry. The image I chose represents an animal which does... How do animals give off carbon dioxide? Animals eat different plants that contain different carbon compounds, such as proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Then these nutrients are then broken down into glucose. That glucose then is used to perform cellular respiration, which, as we already know, makes ATP energy and is a byproduct, carbon dioxide. This carbon dioxide is then released into the atmosphere. This is done when the animal breathes in oxygen. That is because, while it's doing that, it is also breathing out that carbon dioxide. I chose this image because it just represents one of all animals that do this. What is the role of storing carbon in organisms? Carbon has a lot of roles. For example, it is rearranged into carbon dioxide during cellular respiration and put into the atmosphere. That carbon dioxide is used for photosynthesis, which makes glucose and oxygen, which we already knew. Yet, we didn't know that not all of this glucose is used for cellular respiration, and instead, some of the glucose is given to the fungi on the plant's roots in exchange for nutrients and other essential things for the plant. Another thing is that when animals eat plants that contain carbon compounds such as proteins and carbohydrates, these can be broken down into glucose, which will then be used for cellular respiration. And as we know, cellular respiration makes ATP energy, and that ATP energy is used by the animal to perform their daily activities. These images I chose on the top represents an animal eating grass, showing how he is getting his nutrients for ATP energy. And then on the bottom, you can see a tree and all of its fruits. What is the difference between models and real life? In the models we have seen on photosynthesis and cellular respiration, it shows only chemical formulas or colored circles that represent different bonds such as carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. Yet in real life, these molecules look nothing like this. An example of this is shown below. We can see a glucose molecule, and as you can see, all of the bonds are these little circles. How does this all correlate? All of this shows what carbon and carbon dioxide is needed for. Without it, plants wouldn't be able to grow or perform photosynthesis. Nothing would be able to perform cellular respiration, and all organisms wouldn't be able to produce energy. But since we do have it, all of this is possible, and all of it correlates with one another. This is because it is a never-ending cycle from carbon dioxide being used to get glucose, and then that glucose being used to make carbon dioxide again. And then that carbon dioxide is put back into the atmosphere. Oh, and here is where you will find the link to my video. Thank you.